He gets a 66% more targets per route run against single high, and he sees an 82% boost in his yards per route run. And they have allowed an NFL high 31 receiving yards per receptions per game to outside receivers. So the Thursday night special is we are 71% so far in the props that we've picked out here for the national televised games. That includes the one Friday night football. I think I was 500 that day, week one. So it's we got 3 Thursdays, 3 Mondays, 20-8 so far. So without any further ado, let me pop out my 2 official selections, and I'll have a third in the form of the Thursday night special, which will end at the end of the program. I also have a couple of leans. So prop number 1, and I know this is a little weird, but I'm just out for dubs, baby. It's just like last week when I went Austin Hooper. It's like stupid and boring. No, it's not stupid and boring when you win. I go Zeke Elliott over 26.5 rushing yards. The Cowboys are, 5-point favorites. I believe they need to show some toughness in the trenches, given all their problems stopping the run. Jerry poo-pooed the idea of bringing in Derrick Henry, or at least he didn't do it. Derrick Henry wanted to be a Cowboy, and all of a sudden, Cowboys don't have a running game, and Derrick Henry crushed them. So I just think that Zeke is going to be a thing tonight. And again, we don't need to be that much of a thing to go over 27 yards. He's actually been a little bit of a giant killer in his career. He's got 11 touchdowns against them in 13 games. The Giants are giving up 5.4 yards per carry, 2 running backs. And again, for what it's worth, as a member of the New England Patriots last year, as our producer Michael Cohen may recall, Zeke ran well against the Giants last year, 5.1 yards per carry. So Zeke Elliott, and maybe we get some late. I think he'll come out. I could be completely wrong on this, but I think they'll come out with Zeke and look and see what they see. But I think if they're leading, which I think they will, I think obviously he is the closer. Keep in mind, they've run the ball well, relatively well, in one game, their only win. They haven't run the ball well in their 2 losses, which have been kind of led by Rico Dowdle. Not that I'm against Rico Dowdle. The other prop is, in fact, my guy, Wan'Dale Robinson. The Cowboys play zone at the 3rd highest rate, and Robinson is averaging a pretty solid 1.73 yards per route run against zone, but a very promising target share at 19%. Meanwhile, Malik Neighbors averages 72% fewer points against zone. He's crushing man, absolutely destroying it. So I don't know if Neighbors goes off in this game. Daniel Jones is going to be up against some pressure, most likely, and he's not good against pressure. What does he do? He looks for his safety valve, and that would be Wan'Dale Robinson, who already has 2 games with 6+ catches and 8+ targets, including last week, 7 grabs for 61 on 8 targets. And I did like him last week. I actually did play this prop over last week and won. Of course, it was offset by the fact that I tried out Neighbors under, and that did not go very well. Before we get into the Thursday night special, here are some leans that I'm not going to officially make as picks, but for sure, if I had to, I would be very confident in going on these sides. I'll start with Devin Singletary over 60.5 rushing yards. He looks very good. He's seen his fantasy points rise in 3 straight games, coming off season highs last week in touches, scrimmage yards, over a good run D, which I think is very important to note because he's going up against a bad run D in the Cowboys, who have allowed an NFL high 3.08 adjusted yards before contact per attempt and 5.4 yards per carry. Easily the most fantasy points per game. The running backs, of course. So I like Devin Singletary. You want to go with the total yardage, fine, because he's going to catch 3 balls, most likely. And again, I do like Zeke. I'm going to make the official prop with Zeke over the yardage at 26.5, but I kind of also do like Dowdle to get the ball over 40.5 rushing yards. Last week he did beat Zeke in carries and scrimmage yards and all that. And the Giants are allowing a very generous 5.4 yards per carry. So even though it's somewhat obvious, The fact that these numbers are pretty low tells me, the Giants are probably going to give him a game. But even if that's the case, I mean, come on. I think Dowdle can get 10 carries and average 4 yards a carry, basically, and go over. I was considering Brandon Cooks for the Thursday night special. The reason I didn't do it, I think, is he has reached 50-plus receiving yards as a Cowboy just 3 times in 20 games. The data is good, though, and he did rip them for 9 for 173 with a touch last year in mid-November. And the Giants are also allowing a league-high 31 receptions to outside wide receivers thus far. They also play single high, the 7th most this year, and he has very good data against single high, seeing a 57% increase in his targets per route run. It's probably why he went off against him last year. So I do like that one as a nice lean, and I'm actually going to do it, and it's not an official pick, thankfully, but it's just leaning toward the under on Malik Neighbors. Again, through 3 weeks, Neighbors, and it's not a massive sample size, but he's minus 72% production in fantasy points per route run against zone, which the Cowboys run at a top clip. I think it's a top 8 clip. He's still pretty good against zone, so he's not going to get shut out here. But I just think it's a poor schematic matchup here for Neighbors, and I do worry a little bit about the pressure with Daniel Jones getting to Malik Neighbors. So that's why I do like the Wan'Dale Robinson over the 4.5 receptions, and I'm going to go under Malik Neighbors 70.5 receiving yards. What is the Thursday night special? It is a lower end player or play that will come through. We dig deep for the Thursday night special. I love it. I love hitting it, and we've been on fire. We have hit 4 of 6 thus far. So without any further ado, there it is on your screen. Jalen Tolbert over 28.5 receiving yards. Here's my points on Jalen Tolbert, who I did watch practice for a full week at the Senior Bowl several years ago, and I did like him quite a bit. He ran the same 82% of the routes last week as Brandon Cooks. He was just behind Brandon Cooks in terms of air yard share, 22.3% versus 23.8%. So he's right there, even Steven, with Brandon Cooks, the veteran, who, by the way, Brandon Cooks, who has posted 50 or more yards in just 3 of his last 20 games as a Dallas Cowboy. He sees a bump in production against single high coverage, the 7th, which the Giants have played the 7th most times this year. However, the bump that he sees is not as much as the bump that Tolbert sees. He gets a 66% more targets per route run against single high, and he sees an 82% boost in his yards per route run. Cordell Flott, Nick McLeod, Deonte Banks, they're not good. And they have allowed an NFL high 31 receiving yards per receptions per game to outside receivers. So the Thursday night special is Jalen Tolbert over 28.5 receiving yards for your Dallas Cowboys. Feel pretty good about Jalen Tolbert. Hopefully I can brag on Twitter tonight about that.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at 0 cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.